Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we're talking about just what the hell is going on in the economy. I'm Elinor Johnston-Leake, the senior content producer here at the Australia Institute, and as always, I'm talking to our chief economist, Greg Jericho. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Elinor.
As our listeners may know, Greg, we've got our Revenue Summit coming up, and we've just got something very special for our Dollars and Cents listeners.
Yes, on the 29th of October here in Canberra at Parliament House, our Revenue Summit is on, which with many great speakers all talking tax and talking things about the economy and how we can make it better. All these things we talk about on Dollars and Cents. So it's kind of like a really huge live Dollars and Cents.
With a lot of special guests.
With lots of special guests. And for listeners of Dollars and Cents, so we have a special offer for the next week or while stocks last, because we know with podcasts next week might not be next week, but hopefully it is. We've got a special deal, 50% off the cost of entry for the Revenue Summit. All you have to do is follow the links in the show notes and use the promo code podcast, singular, and you'll get 50% off the cost of the Revenue Summit. That means it's around $60 plus fees.
I'm not an economist, but that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Well, it's basically equivalent to the capital gains tax discount. So since the government loves giving investors 50% discount, we decided let's give our wonderful podcast listeners a 50% discount.
Yep.
It's on the 29th, Wednesday, the 29th of October. So this month it's at Parliament House in Canberra in the Parliament House Theatre. There's lunch, there's morning tea and everything. You'll get to chat with me and all other members of the Institute. Amy Ramikis will be there. Richard Dennis will be there. We've got special guests like former Queensland Premier Stephen Miles. David Pocock's going to be there. A few wonky economists. It's going to be great. Good chat. Lots of good opportunity for questions. So if you can make it, now's the time to book because you can get 50% off. So remember that promo code podcast and you can get that discount.
All right. Well, moving on to the show, Greg. This week, as we were talking about last week, the RBA met and they kept interest rates on hold like we were expecting.
This is not the outcome that millions of Australian homeowners would have wanted, but it's certainly the outcome that markets and economists were expecting.
Inflation remains within the target range, but recent data indicate there could be a bit more upward pressure than we thought in August.
Is there much to really say here?
Oh, look, I mean, as you say, we all knew it was coming.
Yep.
There were a few interesting things in what Michelle Bullock said in her press conference afterwards. One of which was she really was at pains to not give any sense of whether the Reserve Bank is thinking about cutting or anything in the future, which is a little bit different from sort of the recent meetings where she sort of indicated that the Reserve Bank has an easing bias, which basically means
they're chilling out.
The easing bias means sort of the next move is going to be a cut.
Yeah,
we're going to cut. It's probably a matter of when, not if. And she really sort of stepped back from that, which kind of suggests maybe she just wants to pack up her kit bag and go home and, I've done all I need to do.
So we might not be getting another rate cut this year.
Yeah, the chances of one in November on Melbourne Cup Day, which is only in 5 weeks' time, is pretty slim. I'd say the market's sort of predicting about 35% chance and sort of falling. Basically because they're getting the sense that the Reserve Bank doesn't want to do anything. The Reserve Bank thinks the economy's doing nice.
Yep. So you might be better off betting on one of the horses than betting on a rate cut.
Yeah.
Don't do that. We don't endorse gambling.
We don't endorse gambling, but really you're a better chance to win in your cup sweep if you got one than probably betting on there being a rate cut. Also, the other interesting thing she said was, and it was a little bit worrying, but also in some ways kind of certainly interesting.
All we've got to go on, because we don't know what sort of neutral is observing inflation, employment and what's happening to the economy. And we've got 3 interest rate cuts already since the beginning of the year, and we know that there's some impact of that starting to happen, but we know that there's more to come. So how restrictive are we at the moment? I don't know.
She didn't really know how restrictive the current cash rate of 3.6 is. Now, a restrictive cash rate is one that is slowing the economy. And she kind of got the sense of, oh, maybe it's not really that restrictive. And I'm like, okay, this is your major policy tool.
This
and
is the one thing that you do.
And if you're a little bit in the dark about this, that's not great. And also, well, 3.6% is actually pretty restrictive when you look over the last 15 years. I mean, you look at what was happening with employment growth. Employment growth at the moment is slower now than it was during the 2010s. The economy is growing slower. GDP growth is slower than the average during the 2010s. And for most of the 2010s, the Reserve Bank was cutting interest rates to try and get things going because everything was growing too slow. After sort of the middle of 2012, the cash rate was below 3.6, so lower than it is now, because the Reserve Bank felt we need to get it lower to get people spending and investing and things. And yet now we're at the point where, it's not really that restrictive, is it? Maybe. And I think maybe it is. And you're just being a bit too optimistic. So I think they should have cut. I still think they should cut in November, but the market is kind of now betting maybe wait till March if we're going to get one. But they still think there is going to be a cut. It's just they probably think only one more.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Will.
All right. And then also in the news this week, Greg, some pretty exciting news. From Wednesday this week, all first home buyers will only need a 5% deposit to buy a house. So the federal government is going to act as a guarantor for the remainder of the 20% deposit. And then the price caps for these loans is also increasing from what they were. It's different depending on where you live. In Canberra here, it was $750,000 max you could borrow. Now it's up to $1 million. Shows how much house prices have gone up.
In Canberra, yeah.
And also the income cap has been removed. So I guess no matter how much you earn, you'll be able to apply for this 5% loan. Greg, first question, is this going to push up house prices even more?
Well, I thought the first question was, can Elinor now buy a house?
I mean, maybe.
And it's a case of, do you really want to?
I mean, this is what I need you.
Do you want to take out
to unpack
a
this for
95% loan on your
with
house?
The
essentially,
federal government acting as a guarantor. What?
Yeah.
What does this mean?
First things first. All this is a kind of sneaky way of doing a first home buyer's grant. That's really all it is. Because when you think of what a first home buyer's grant was it give you $10,000, $20,000, whatever, when you bought your home so you could pay your deposit.
Yep.
What this is saying is instead of giving you cash up front, they're saying, well, that deposit is actually lower than you otherwise it used to be. It used to be, let's say you needed to come up with a deposit that was 20% of the value of your home. Now they're saying, you only need 5%.
Yeah, you don't have to save up quite so much. Yeah.
And the reason being because first home buyers traditionally needed that 20%. Otherwise, the banker's going, we don't really trust you because you don't have many assets. You know, if you've got a house and you're borrowing against that to buy another house, you don't need really any deposit at all because if you can't buy your loan, don't worry, we got to take your house. You know?
Don't worry.
Whereas because you don't have any assets as a first home buyer, or certainly no assets the size of a house, you generally needed that 20%. Or 15 maybe if the bank was generous, and you also had to take out insurance and things like that, which added to the cost. The government saying, no, you only need 5%, will basically guarantee your loan. I'm not too worried about that, but what I'm worried about is like first home buyer grants. All this does is create more demand in the economy. People go, now I can afford to buy a home. Great, I'm going out bidding for a home. Well, you got more people bidding for a home. What happens to the price of that house? In an auction, it goes up. So, it might end up really with those people who were close to buying a home being able to buy it maybe a bit, a few months earlier than they otherwise would have, but it's not going to be a massive game changer for people who are looking at house prices, looking at their rent they're paying, going, I'm never going to get there.
Yep.
And in fact, the worry is that it's going to make it harder for those people because it's actually going to give another surge to house prices. And if you read numerous news reports on the 1st of October, it was all about, real estate agents are saying that they're getting massive amounts of interest from people wanting to take advantage of this thing. And so, that probably we're going to see a spike in house prices. And that is not great for housing affordability, no matter how much the government is guaranteeing or lowering things.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some headlines this week that were from, investors rushing in to buy houses before this scheme was introduced. And I was like, oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
Even more.
Not a good sign, is it?
Yeah.
It's not, the government is at pains to say, oh, this will enable more people to buy a home. And they're not following through that line of if there's more people trying to buy a home all at the same time, because they've all been given this same deal, which means everyone knows they've got more money to bid for on their home. Well, clearly that's going to raise house prices. So this is just the problem with housing policy for the last 25 years. Overwhelmingly, it's been about juicing demand and saying, oh, it's really expensive to buy a home. We'll give you some more money so you can buy that home. And that just adds to the price. And here it's, we'll make it easier for you to borrow. So that just means they've got more money to bid on a home. It's frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, not to make you repeat yourself, but even though I always do, what should the government be doing instead?
Well, for a start, stop doing what you've been doing for the last 25 years. Get rid of the 50% capital gains discount. 50% discount should only be for revenue summits and not for buying a house. And, because that clearly turned the housing market into a bit of a casino, a very lucrative and tax-benefited casino.
Yeah, but a casino where the people coming in win, not just the house.
And they kind of, it was almost impossible to lose because while you were buying a home on the expectation that the value of the house is going to go up or the property is going to go up, and while you're waiting for that, you rent it out and negative gear it and reduce your tax in the meantime. And then when the value of the house or property has gone up enough, you can sell it and get a 50% tax discount. So you're winning both ways. So got to get rid of that.
The government could, build houses. Hang on, what? Well, if we have a shortage of houses and we want a bigger supply of houses, and just hang on for a second, this might get technical. Yeah. But we could build houses.
Right now we have something called the Defence Housing Authority. Can you guess what it does, Matt?
Defence Housing Authority, does it provide housing?
Yeah.
To defence people?
And you know how it does it?
By building houses?
Buying land, building houses, renting to the people who work in the Defence Force.
This is a brilliant idea. Well, does the government know the Defence Force is doing this?
Let's amend the bill. Let's be really technical here. Let's introduce an amendment that removes the word defence from the Defence Housing Authority and just turn it into the Housing Authority.
And then it could just make houses for lots of different people.
Maybe nurses, maybe teachers, maybe people.
Radical.
Also, as we've often been saying here at the Institute, yes, supply is a massive issue, and a big aspect of the supply problem is the public sector is largely absent. It used to be 10 to 15% of new homes were in the public sector.
And by that you mean public housing?
Yeah, public housing. The governments, state governments, federal governments borrow at your very low interest rates that governments can borrow, a lot lower than we can borrow at, build homes, provide them for people who need homes, whether it's to rent, whether it's rent to buy, low, middle income. They can even make them for, middle to high income, especially if you're, a public servant or you're working as a teacher, a nurse or things like that. As Richard Dennis says, we've got Defence Force housing. Why not nurses housing? Why not, education housing Australia?
Or just housing.
Or just housing Australia. We can do these things. We choose instead to come up with all these funds and schemes of ways in doing what should be obvious of borrow, build, provide.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I give up. I mean, yeah, if all of these sort of housing schemes are just going to continue to push up house prices, maybe I will never afford a house.
Yeah, I mean, the the real catch for any politician is if you ask them, is the purpose of this housing policy to lower house prices, or is it to make house prices go up? And they will twist themselves in knots to point out that, oh, no, we don't want house prices to fall, or we don't want house prices to go up slower than incomes. And yet, if it ain't doing any of those things, housing affordability is not improving. You know, that's the only way you can improve housing affordability is house prices, dwelling prices go up slower than incomes. And this policy, unfortunately, is not going to do that.
All right. Well, also in the news this week, Greg, in an unexpected solution to the Colesworth supermarket duopoly that we've been talking about, that's been a big problem in Australia, the government has done something that is not divestment laws, like we've previously talked about. Our Prime Minister Albanese was visiting the United Arab Emirates this week and visited an Emirati hypermarket called Lulu and has invited them to come and set up shop in Australia.
Have you actually formally asked Lulu to establish itself as a competitor in Australia?
Yes, I certainly have. There are 300 supermarkets just like this one. I've encouraged him to come to Australia as well. We need more competition in the Australian supermarket sector.
Just to be clear, a hypermarket is basically a supermarket that sells other things like clothing, electronics, stuff like that, maybe like Costco. Greg, we already have foreign supermarkets in Australia, like Costco, like Aldi. Is another foreign supermarket coming and setting up shop here really going to solve our supermarket competition problem?
Well, it couldn't hurt. I'll say that. More competition is not going to hurt our competition problem.
Okay.
I think we should step back first. Why was Anthony Albanese saying that? And it's because a free trade agreement with the UAE's just come into effect.
I was going to say, because he was inviting them.
Yeah.
Do they need to be invited in like a vampire?
Yeah, it's sort of like, yes, you're allowed to come in now.
Yes.
Look, it's always a bit of a thing where governments go over and try and sort of say, hey, come over here, the water's fine and everything. First off, is it going to happen? Probably not. You know,
I figured they would have already done it if they
there is a bit of that.
Yeah.
But it would be a good thing if we got more competition and probably we're going to need to get more competition from foreign companies, foreign supermarket, department store companies, because they will have the scope to be able to get into the market and compete against Coles and Woolies. Because the problem is, as we've said many, many times, Coles and Woolies just dominate.
Yeah.
And for many people, there really isn't much of a choice. You can go to Coles or you can go to Woolies, and if you're really desperate, you know, there might be a 7-Eleven or a
Superbarn or an Aldi.
Superbarn or something to go and grab milk at, 8:30 on a Sunday night or something like that.
But because you're not they dominate the market so much, they really don't need to compete on price. So it's,
And as we point out, I think it was last year, we did some research showing that they take it in turns with sales on things like Coke and detergent and basically everything, because they're not really competing. They're competing against everyone else except themselves, and they don't get in a room and collude because they don't need to, because they're so comfortable. And what we also found with Aldi, when Aldi came in, originally that did set off a bit of a price war and, did lower prices. And then everyone kind of settled into their comfort. Aldi has a bit under 10%. So, a sizable amount, but it's still a small player. And Coles and Woolies kind of know, the threat's gone.
Yeah.
And everyone's settled into their comfort zone of, they're Aldi shoppers and we've lost the people who were going to go from us. They're not no one's sort of leaving us now. And so what we kind of need is more competition to come in to fire that all up again. More competition is what is needed. We don't need a comfortable supermarket sector because that just means they set prices as they want. So nice of Anthony Albanese to invite Lulu.
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 It's a very cute name.
It is.
Yeah. But I mean, it It does feel like a bit of a nothing burger, really. I mean,
because there's so many questions. Where are they going to build these supermarkets?
Are they even going to build these supermarkets? Are they even interested?
Because the problem is that Coles and Woolies are very good at land banking, as they say, buying up vacant land, saying, oh, yeah, we're going to put a supermarket there. But really what they're doing is buying it so that no one else can put a supermarket there. And that means Lulu comes into Australia and go, okay, where am I going to put a supermarket? And probably their best op is to, we'll buy out a super barn, or we'll buy it. It's that type of thing. And is that actually going to improve competition, or is it just going to replace one supermarket with another and it doesn't really add to it? So be nice. It's certainly not any silver bullet, especially because the gun's not even loaded.
Yeah.
Not even coming. What needs to happen, as we have pointed out many, many times in our research, we need a prices commission. People are constantly surprised when I tell them that the ACCC can't actually look at prices. They don't care what Coles or Woolies are charging unless they are colluding in their pricing. So if they're not colluding, if they're just setting prices that are essentially price gouging, the ACCC has no power to investigate that. So what we need is a body that actually can investigate prices, because we can say, okay, you guys aren't colluding, you're not doing anything illegal, but you have such market power that you're able to set prices at levels that really are not in line with community standards. So show us your books and justify why you are selling Coke at this price one week and Coke at this other price the next week. And you're basically week on, week off is a sale, and you're saying that, that's actually the price and the other price is a sale, or is that actually the real price and every other week you're just doubling? It's most people have no idea what the price of anything is. Like if you say, what is the proper price of a packet of cereal? It's kind of
Google it, mate.
Yeah, but it's also you'll see that price, but you have no idea, is that the price it should be? Is that a price that is making a big profit or a small profit?
Especially recently after prices shot up so much during the pandemic, you look at a price and you're like, is that what it should be anymore?
We have no idea. There is so much opaqueness around pricing. We have no idea whether or not kind of something is it good value because that's the best we can get because Coles and Woolies have got so much market share, or is it actually good value because they're really not making much money on this and, they're making maybe 5% profit and you're thinking, well, that's fair enough. They do a thing, or are they making stonks more profit? We have no idea.
Yeah.
And so it's a case of we need actually, because these two have so much power, we need someone to come in and say, show us your books, justify it to us, or we're going to start, handing out some massive fines.
All right. We've probably got time for a quick tariff corner because there have been some tariff developments. So tariffs have apparently gone Hollywood this week.
The movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States.
Donald Trump is threatening to blow up New Zealand's film industry, reviving a plan to slap a 100% tariff on overseas movies.
In an early morning post, Trump lashed out at other countries for stealing, quote, candy from a baby.
If it really happens, it would be pretty damaging to the business.
Trump has threatened to impose a 100% tariff on films made outside the US. Quite a few foreign films, including US films, are made here in Australia, at least partially. But my question is, this 100% tariff, what does it actually apply to? Because in this day and age, in the day of streaming, people going to the cinema, movies get released in a whole different way, in lots of different ways. How would this tariff actually work?
Yeah, good question. No one knows.
Okay,
and
good.
Donald Trump clearly has no idea.
Yeah.
Look, it's something when he it's not, as with all things Donald Trump, he didn't actually announce. He just put it up on his Truth Social page, and everyone's like, "Hey, how, when, on what?"
Yeah.
Look, you can understand people in the Australian film industry getting a bit worried because about 43% of film and TV production in Australia is by foreign films. And this is what Trump is really worried. He doesn't give a shit about, an Australian film like, say, The Dry or something, then going over to America.
I would be shocked if Donald Trump had ever heard of the movie The Dry.
What he is getting all antsy about, and he probably was watching a film, maybe he was watching The Fall Guy or something, and at the end he saw it was filmed in Sydney, thanked the Australian government, and he's like, what's going on here? This should have been filmed in America. And that's what he's trying to stop. But as you point out, one, you can't put a tariff on a service, and that's what a film is and TV is, because unlike, let's say you're importing a car, well, the car actually has to cross the border, go through customs, and at that point they can say, right, we're putting a 20% tariff on the price of this thing.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a film because even if let's say Mr. and Mrs. Warner Brothers make a film in Australia, they make the film, they put it, even if it's made in film and not digital, they put that in the can, they take it back to America. Well, there's no money changing hands when we go over there. They've paid people in Australia, in Australian dollars to do something. America can't put a tax on that. Also, as you point out, we got streaming. How do you put a tariff on even a foreign production thing? Let's say Bluey, which is a massive hit in America on Disney Plus. But if you're on Disney Plus in America, you don't pay for Bluey, you pay for Disney Plus. So how do you put a tariff on something that also is not physical? Also, many American films use Australian special effects and PDV.
What's PDV?
PDV is post and digital visual effects.
Okay.
So it's often the special effects or it's just cleaning up the film so it looks actually nice, gets rid of all the flubs in the film gate and things like that. And Australian companies are really good at that. One of them, Rising Sun Pictures, in an Adelaide company, does stonks of it, does it for things like for Marvel, even did it for the Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown.
The Timothy Chalamet one.
Yeah, they did the post work on that. Now, that's an American film, but had post work done in Australia. So is there a tariff on that? Also, he said just on films. So is it on TV? It's complete Trump bullshit, but it's unfortunately because Trump has so much power, it's bullshit. It's obviously going to worry a lot of people here in Australia. My gut is it's just another thing where Trump is, because Hollywood companies like Disney, like Warner Brothers, like ABC, all would hate this because it's going to raise their costs. So I think it's just another one of, you didn't sack Jimmy Kimmel, so here's another thing I'm going to threaten you with. But I think this is a bit of a hollow threat given, one, the legality of it is pretty dodgy. Like, at what point would the government come in and say, give us your tariff money? It's like, and given Hollywood has a lot of lawyers floating around.
They do.
And Hollywood are very good at hiding money.
They are. Yep.
I don't know how this would work. But again, it's just yet again one of these things we wake up and go, oh, God, what has the orange idiot said tonight? And going, oh, God, we got to deal with this.
Yep. And all the industries have to figure out how to react.
You all have to worry about. And the worry is for Australian film industry is companies might go, look, he's probably not going to do it, but maybe because there is a risk, because they plan these movies many years out. It might be 3 or 4 years out. They've got their slate of films, especially for things like Marvel. And they go, well, maybe we won't film it in Australia. Maybe we'll find a place in America and that'll just be safe.
Yeah.
Even if it's not done. And that's always the problem.
Yeah. Well, I reckon that's probably all we've got time for today, Greg.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Just support Australian film and, that's.
Yeah, it might be worth mentioning that, the government maybe could be doing more to support Australian movies made in Australia.
Yeah, and also
Australian
things
stories.
like quotas for Netflix. You're saying, okay, you're operating here in Australia, you should have to produce a certain percent of Australian content. Unfortunately, the government really laxed on the content rules for free TV, for terrestrial TV. Last year, Tony Burke, the arts minister, sort of dropped an idea of putting quotas on Netflix. And the reason he did that was he was worried it might break the US-Australia free trade agreement. And I'm like, I think we can stop worrying about that now, Tony.
We've got bigger problems now.
I think we do. So, yeah, there are plenty of things to do, including, hell, just fund ABC so it can actually make some good drama.
Yeah. All right. Well, I said that's all we've got time for, and then we kept talking. So
of course we did.
All right. That's all we've got time for today, Greg. Thanks so much.
It is, Elinor. Great to chat with you as always. And thank you, everyone, for listening once again. We will be back with another Dollars and Cents, but this one was recorded on the 2nd of October. October, Elinor.
I know.
We're nearly there. Well, nearly to the end of the year.
Nearly to the Revenue Summit.
We're nearly to the Revenue Summit. 50% off. Use podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you want to find more of me just complaining about the Reserve Bank, go to my column on Guardian Australia to see all the data and all the facts. Also, for more data, more facts, more excellent commentary, more great reports, great podcasts, excellent videos, including your one that you kind of directed from Tuvalu.
No, I was the cinematographer.
You're the cinematographer. I'm calling you director. It's excellent. It is now available on our website and on our YouTube channels. It just is fantastic. Please, everyone, watch it. It is truly astonishing and kind of shocking, I think, is a good way of describing it as well. It's called Save Tuvalu, Save the World, and that is an absolutely bang-on title. So very much seek that out and give it a watch. Our music, as always, is from Blue Dot Sessions. Everyone, have a great week, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.